Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be a review of 90 Day Fiancé, The Other Way, Season 3, Episode 8, Selective Virtues. We start off with Sumit and Jenny. Jenny is meeting with one of her really good friends in India by the name of Dipali. They go to like a tea shop or a restaurant where they're having tea. Jenny tells Dipali that she tells the confessional. In her confessional, she says that she just gets along better with younger people than with people her own age. And I kind of took that as a red flag. Like, why can't you get along with people around your own age? Why are you connecting better with people who are half your age? Like, what's happening there, Jenny? DePauli says that she supports the relationship between Jenny and Sumit. She says she supports it 100, 200, 1,000%. She supports it, but she also sees the other side of it. She also understands how Sumit's parents must also feel, when their son, who is in his 30s, is dating a woman twice his age. So DePauli also understands where the parents are coming from, because this is just not seen a lot in India. And so it would take any native person to kind of adjust to this whole situation. Jenny doesn't want the parents to come live with her. DePauli wants Jenny to see this in a more positive light and probably see it also as a way to, build a bridge with Sumit's parents. And so she encourages Jenny to go through with this whole idea of the parents living with them, and to be happy about it, to approach it in a more positive light, basically. DePauli says the parents may be changing, because I think DePauli was a little bit surprised that Sumit's parents were willing to do the counseling session with Jenny and Sumit. So she was like, if they're willing to do that, then maybe this is a sign of a change coming, and Jenny should take full advantage of whatever they're willing to do to try to mend the relationship between them and Jenny and Sumit. So Jenny says that if the first few days don't go well, she is gonna basically tell them to leave. She's not gonna put up with it if it's not gonna go to her liking. They're getting the house ready. Her and Sumit, they're getting the house ready. Supposedly they were preparing a spare room for the parents to stay in, but then Sumit suggested that they stay in their bedroom and Jenny and Sumit stay in the spare room. And Jenny was like, why am I being kicked out of my own room to accommodate the parents? And Sumit says something about how it's really important to make sure that your guests are happy and that they're comfortable. Sumit has no problem with the parents living with them. And he says, sometimes, I miss my parents. So I'm really happy that they get to come and stay with us, because I'm used to living with them. I've lived with them all my life. And sometimes I really do miss my parents. Then they get into this really petty argument about, Jenny is not able to see her family, and she's able to, I guess the whole point of it was that Jenny is not able to see her family as often as she would like, because they are in America and she's in India, and she's still able to, that's a big sacrifice for her, for this relationship, to be so far away from her parents. And then Sumit whining about, oh, but I miss my parents. And Jenny's like, well, you can see your parents anytime. They don't necessarily, them staying here is not a necessity of you maintaining a relationship with them, because you can see them whenever you want. On the other hand, I cannot see my family whenever I want. So they got into this really petty argument, and Sumit said at the end of it, I don't understand why you're getting mad. All I'm saying is that I miss my parents, and I have the right to miss my parents. That's a valid feeling that I'm having, that I'm missing my parents. But here we are arguing about it. So it was a really petty argument. The parents are on their way. As they're driving to Sumit and Jenny's house, the mother says that she has a headache. I guess it's some type of a stress headache or something. She says that she has a headache, and the mother says that Jenny has a lot of anger in her. She tells her husband, who's sitting next to her, that Jenny has a lot of anger in her. The father says that Jenny is acting like a stubborn child. And so when I was watching that scene, I'm like, okay, so they're kind of already approaching this whole this whole experience, this whole new chapter in their lives, they're kind of approaching it, kind of negatively, because they're already like, oh, Jenny's stubborn and Jenny's angry as they're driving to Jenny's house, so they're already kind of in a negative position. And I was like, that's not really helpful. That's not really helpful. And of course, they don't talk about their own issues and the mother's own anger issues. And so the mom says to her husband that she wants to be able to teach her, basically teach her how to be a good Indian daughter-in-law. And the dad asks, but is she willing to learn? Moving on from there. So Jenny and Sumit, they're getting the house ready. Sumit tells Jenny, my parents are on their way. Jenny's feeling really nervous and really scared. Sumit says that for sure his parents will try to make it hard for them. And because that's just how it is, because Sumit says, we live differently, I guess, than your typical Indian couple. We do things differently. So I'm pretty sure that my parents are going to try to make it really difficult for us, to try to get us to change or to try to get us to, live in a different way. And then Jenny says, well, I just want you to defend me. I want you to be by my side. Do not throw me under the bus. So she's already warning him, like, if your mom comes at me kind of wrong, I need you to be my man and stand by my side and defend me. And she has every right to require that of him, and he should, because this is a woman that you supposedly want to spend the rest of your life with. So yeah, Sumit, please take heed. And Sumit tells Jenny, well, if my mother says anything out of pocket, just let her talk. Just let her talk. I'm not even going to stop her. Just let her say whatever she wants. I'm not going to stop her. I'm not going to do anything because it's just going to lead to an argument. And I'm just like, okay, so then you're going to make Jenny feel like it's 3 against 1 if you're not going to stand up for her. Because if you're not going to stand up for her, his family has no idea that whether or not you agree with them or you agree with her. So if you stand up for her, then, she feels like at least one person is on her side. It's just her against this whole entire family. So if your parents say something out of pocket, Sumit, you need to defend your woman in front of them. And then if you feel like that maybe if your parents were right and Jenny was wrong, then maybe you can talk to Jenny in private or talk to your parents in private. But if they come to her wrong, you need to stand up for her, and you need to be the husband, the future husband that you want to be for her, and not let anyone talk to her crazy, even if it's your parents. Like, you don't have to, argue with your parents or call your parents out, but defend your wife. So if they start pointing things out about her that would make her feel bad, defend your wife. You don't have to argue against your parents, but you can defend your wife without it being, World War III. But that's what he says. He says, look, if she says anything crazy, I'm going to just keep quiet. So he tells Jenny to be happy, to be calm, and to be polite. How did I feel about him telling her that? So basically, you're telling this an independent American woman that no matter what happens, she just has to swallow it. She just has to accept it. It's like, okay, if that's the kind of wife that you want, if that's the kind of woman that you want, Sumit, you want a very submissive woman who doesn't stand up for herself, who just kind of rolls with the punches, then that's the kind of wife you should have gotten. You know what I mean? Anyways, so the parents arrive. They meet them at the gate outside. The greetings are really good. Everybody greets each other really well. Jenny hugs the parents. And so the greeting went really well. And after that, it took a straight nosedive. They come inside the home. They sit down in the living room, and the first thing that the mother notices is that the coffee table has stains on it, and it's the ring stains from the coffee cups. And I'm just like, so the mother's like, okay, didn't y'all, I don't understand why there's ring stains on your coffee table. Why wouldn't you wipe that away? And I also wondered that, you knew that the parents were coming. Jenny, Sumit, you both know that your parents were coming. You know what kind of standards they have. You know what they're expecting. You know that the mother's going to try to teach her a thing or two about being a good Indian wife, but you didn't even bother to wipe the coffee table. I was expecting Jenny or Sumit to say, oh yeah, we tried to wipe it, but they didn't come off. Well, then put a cover over it, put a table cover over it or some type of doilies or something to cover up those stains. What's coming. The mother is going to be extremely critical because she already does not like Jenny for her son. So she's going to point out every speck of dust, every stain, anything that is, slightly askew, she's going to point it out. Why wouldn't you try to take care of that? So that was just the beginning of the end right there with the rings on the coffee table. Then the mother says, I want a tour of the house. So they go, they give her a tour. They didn't even get past the kitchen. They didn't even get past the kitchen. So they go into the kitchen. The kitchen is a disaster. I am not understanding. It doesn't even matter that it was Submit's parents and the overly critical mother-in-law that's coming. When anyone comes to your home, when you're expecting guests in your home, why aren't you, why didn't you go through the house and just make it immaculate, like clean it, something. The kitchen looked like it hadn't been touched in days, and you know what's about to happen. You know, Hurricane mother-in-law is on her way, and she's going to go through this whole entire house with a big magnifying glass looking for a time. Why didn't you clean your kitchen, Jenny? Submit, not just Jenny, because Submit lives there too, and he also has a duty to make sure that his house looks presentable for his own parents. Why didn't you clean your kitchen? And I'm saying kitchen because we haven't even seen the rest of the house. The kitchen was a disaster. So at first, because they have like they had a countertop, and the countertop was just full of stuff. And at first I thought, well, maybe they don't have anywhere to put it. You know, maybe they don't have any cabinets or something, but they did. They could have put that stuff away. All that stuff didn't have to be laying out on the counter like that. So they go into the kitchen. The mother immediately, I mean, she is looking at everything. She's looking under the countertops. She is looking in the cabinets. I mean, the kitchen was a mess. There's no other way to put it. I'm trying to find a way to try to like defend Jenny in some kind of way. Maybe the mother was overly critical. You know, maybe she was, you know, just trying to find something, just to find something. No, as soon as you walked into the kitchen, it was a disaster. And so the mother starts telling Jenny to clean up. So she's telling her, you need to do this, and this can't be here, and the countertops have to be absolutely clean and nothing on the countertops. And then she's like, okay, you need to sweep under the sink, and where's the broom? And Jenny says Submit said, Jenny, where's the broom? And Jenny says, I don't know where the broom is. And then the father says, well, yeah, of course you don't, because you don't clean. You don't know where the broom is because you don't use it. That was insane. Jenny's upset. In her confessional, she's upset. She says that it's her kitchen. She can keep it any way that she wants, but you're having guests over. Yes, it's your kitchen. You can do whatever you want, but you're having guests over. And why wouldn't you want your house to look presentable for anyone? That kitchen was horrible. So the mom in her confessional, she says that there's an age for learning, but Jenny is way past that age. And so she won't be able to do it. She said exactly that. She said there's an age for learning, and Jenny has passed that. She will not be able to do it. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with Jenny. I don't know if she thought that, well, maybe if the house looked really bad, they wouldn't want to stay here. They'd be grossed out and then they'd leave. I don't know if that was her intention. I'm not understanding why you wouldn't want your house absolutely spotless for your guests, regardless if it was Submit's parents. The kitchen was a mess. The kitchen was horrific. It was disgusting. So Submit is happy. So they're in the kitchen, and the parents and Submit, they're standing there, and they're basically just bossing Jenny around. And the mom is like kicking stuff. She's like, oh, because I guess they found the broom. So Jenny's sweeping. And then I guess there was something that she missed. The mom kicked it with her foot and said, you missed this. So Jenny's like Cinderella, you know, with the stepsisters and the stepmother. She's just going around cleaning everything while everyone else is just standing around looking at her and bossing her around. And even Submit is like, oh, Jenny, you need to do this. Jenny, you need to go clean over there. And Submit loved it. He absolutely loved it. He was like, yes, you know, my mom is here. Thank God. She's going to teach this woman how to clean a house. And he says, well, I don't want to say that Jenny is not, you know, she doesn't do a good job cleaning, but I'm glad that my mom is here to, you know, give her some tips. So Submit is loving it. He's thinking that my mom is going to transform Jenny into this perfect housewife, and I'm going to come home to cooked meals and a clean house. Everyone is telling Jenny what to do in the kitchen. Submit's not even helping. You would think that Submit would want to help. I mean, you are watching your wife, I mean, your fiance, being bossed around by your parents. They're telling her, and she's probably older than both of her parents. So they're telling this older woman to do this, sweep here, clean this, clean that. And you're just standing there and you're not even, and I'm like, why aren't you even helping, Submit? You live there too. This is your home too. And once again, if you want the kind of woman that's going to clean the house from top to bottom while you don't have to do anything and they can serve you hand and foot, then go seek out that type of woman. But you married an independent, or you want to marry an independent American woman who probably doesn't believe in all of this, cleaning for my man. If anything, we're going to clean together. We're going to keep the house together. But now you're mad that she's not like that, and then you're happy that your mom is going to come there and teach her a thing or two, and then you won't even help her clean. That, I thought maybe he did, but they didn't put it in, or maybe he did and I was busy writing, I didn't see it. But from what I saw, he wasn't helping them clean. So, yeah, the house was bad. Jenny should have done a better job. Jenny and Submit should have done a much better job in making the house presentable for the parents. The mother right now has every right to be very concerned and to be very worried about, their living condition and whether or not, this is, if Jenny will ever be a good Indian daughter-in-law. So that's Jenny and Submit. Moving on to Ellie and Victor. So Ellie and Victor, every season on this show, 90 Day Fiancé or 90 Day the Other Way, or the regular 90 Days, there's always a couple where I feel like the American is really being used. And the couple that is Ellie and Victor. I don't, oh, one more thing. Let me go back to Submit and Jenny. I also feel like Submit is using Jenny. I don't see really any chemistry between Submit and Jenny. I don't think that he's really that into her. I really don't see any type of love and affection between Submit and Jenny like I would in like the way that I would see in other couples. 90 Day Fiancé, the regular 90 Day Fiancé, I forget their names, but it was last season. The boy who lived on the ranch with his parents, with the girl from Russia. And she didn't want to live that farm life. And so at the end of the season, he ended up getting them an apartment in the city. That couple, you can tell that they're really into each other. They're really, really, really into each other because you can just tell the body language, how they speak to one another. You can just tell when a couple is really into each other. I'm trying to think of another couple where we can tell that they really do like each other. Even on this season, maybe I'll get to it. But Submit and Jenny, I don't see any chemistry. I don't think that Submit is really into Jenny like that. Maybe she's really into him, but I don't think he's really into her. And I do think that he is using her for her money. Ellie and Victor, I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm really leaning towards that. I think he's probably using Ellie. So they found an apartment because we're living in a hotel in what's the name of that place that they're in? Because they're not living in Providencia. It'll come to me later. So they found an apartment because they were living in hotels and it was getting expensive, obviously. So they finally found an apartment. And then I think they were in their apartment or maybe moving out of the hotel. I don't know. But they were like either packing a suitcase or unpacking a suitcase. I couldn't tell. They're talking about, she brings up the whole thing about him cheating. And it wasn't just like a one-night stand or whatever, or a drunken moment. It was, he moved in with this other woman while she was still living in America. So Victor moved in with this other woman, and the woman had began messaging Ellie, I guess, through social media. And the woman told her that they were living together, that they had been living together. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that the woman had contacted her when the affair was over and was telling Ellie, all the deets about their relationship. And she said that they were living together, that they were planning on having kids together, that she was even considering buying him a motorcycle. So I don't know if this was also an American woman that he was trying to scam. So when she brings this up to him, Victor tells her that, it was during the quarantine and that he didn't mean half the things that he told her and that it wasn't serious for him at all. And I'm like, wow, if it wasn't serious for you and you didn't mean the things that you told her, why are you with her? You have a girlfriend in America. You have Ellie. So if this woman didn't mean anything to you, why are you living with her? Why are you with her? Why is any of this happening? If it wasn't that important to you and it didn't mean anything to you, why are you living with this woman? And Ellie says that, she doesn't, she's like, well, of course I'm probably, no, Victor asked her, so why are you even entertaining her? Why do you believe anything that she's telling you? And Ellie says, well, because you're the one that lied. She's telling me about what actually happened, about the relation, because I guess Victor didn't tell her. I don't know if the woman, she first heard it from the woman, or I don't know. But Ellie's like, well, I'm going to believe her because she's the one that I guess, enlightened me what was going on, and you were the one that was lying to me the whole time. So Ellie says that she doesn't believe that she's being used, and then she also says to Victor that because I guess with the whole motorcycle thing, it made her think that maybe he was just using this woman, but she doesn't believe that she's being used herself. And then she tells Victor that while you were out here philandering, doing all this stuff, you failed to realize that there was a whole nother human being in America, meaning herself, that was going through a broken heart. This really affected me, and it really broke her heart that he was doing this. And so I think that, I'm like, Ellie, what are you doing? Oh, like, what are you doing, Ellie? Nothing is going your way. This man cheated on you. This man lied to you. He wants you to help him rebuild, basically, his entire little neighborhood in Providencia. This wasn't your plan. Why are you still in this? And could you love someone that much that you really didn't spend that much time with? Just like with Jenny. Now I got to go back again to Jenny and Sumit. Jenny, what are you doing? What are you doing in India? Why are you putting yourself through this? Do you believe that that one day you're going to prove to his mother that you are good enough, and that you and Sumit are going to get married, and the family's going to accept you 100%, and y'all are just going to live this happily ever after fairy tale in India? Is that what you believe is going on at your age of 60 something years old? You've raised children, you've been around the block a few times, you're a grown, seasoned woman. You really do believe, Jenny, that at the end of all of this, you and Sumit are going to be walking down the aisle together, and his parents are going to accept you with open arms. And that's just, moving on back to Ellie and Victor. Okay, so her plans were to, leave America, go to Providencia, start her little beachside business with Victor, and live happily ever after. But the hurricane came. This is not what she planned. This was not not only is it not in her plans, it's not in her budget. Because to help rebuild his home, and maybe his relatives' homes as well, I don't know what he's trying to rebuild over there in Providencia, to help him rebuild all this stuff, he needs money, and the money can only come from her. So they're in the hardware store, and he wants to buy a drill. The drill comes out to like $150. And Ellie's like, that is just way too expensive. I can get a drill much cheaper than this. In America, like about $50 in America. So then he'd ask the salesman, can you help us find a cheaper drill? So the salesman finds them a drill for $112, but you have to buy a generator. So Ellie's like, that doesn't make any sense. A drill is supposed to last you, once you charge it up, it's supposed to last you for days or weeks or whatever. And Victor's like, no, that's not true. I don't know where you heard that from. You need to buy the generator with the drill so that you can use it for a long time. And so then the salesman says, okay, if you don't want to get the generator, get the batteries. So it's just like, she's just not planning on buying all. I mean, this was not in her. So if this was not in your plans, Ellie, you didn't intend for this to happen. Get your suitcase, pack your bags, and go back home. Oh, but she's got nothing. She sold her home or something. Her doesn't have a home. Just leave. Ellie, just leave. Why do you want to put yourself through this kind of misery? It is going to take a long time for this tiny island to rebuild. And he wants to live in Providencia. He doesn't want to live in Colombia, because I think that's where, this Providencia is a island off the coast of Colombia, I think. I'm not sure. So he wants to live in Providencia. That's his goal. That's his plan. But to do that, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to help fix. Well, he doesn't have to rebuild his home because his home is fine. It wasn't destroyed by the hurricane. So, but there are things that need to be done. So if you don't like this, Ellie, if this was not in your plan, then just leave. Let him fix his home, and then when everything is better, then go back. Anyways, but I guess that's going to show that, she doesn't love him if she lets him struggle by himself into fixing his home. Ellie's plan was to live with Victor in Providencia. Now San Andres. Yeah. So now she's paying for this expensive apartment in San Andres. She's paying for the reconstruction. And I think the bottom line, I really do think that Ellie's being used. I really do think that. So when they leave the hardware store, she ends up spending $230. And I think they walked out with one bag. Probably just with one drill and a battery. Binion and Ariella. So Ariella arrives in the United States. She's in New Jersey with her parents. Her parents are there to pick her up, so that's wonderful. Greetings, hugs and kisses, wonderful. They go home and her siblings get to meet Avi. Her siblings are meeting Avi for the very first time. Oh, before they get home, when they're still in the car driving from the airport to the home, she calls Biniam. And, he sounds really upbeat and really chirpy and, really talkative. And when she's done talking to him on the phone, because she asked him, well, what are you doing? And he says, I'm hanging out with my friends. And I kind of like cringed when he said that, because I was like, I wonder how Ari's going to feel about that, or her parents, I don't know if they expected him to be like crying and, crawl, I don't know what they expected, but he sounded really happy. And her mother even said, he sounds a lot better than I thought he was going to be sounding. Well, what do you think? That because Ari left, that he wouldn't, move on with life while she's gone? Like he's just supposed to sit in a dark room crying, drinking his feelings away, balled up in a corner, not being able to function because Ari made the decision to come to America for the baby surgery? No, he's like, okay, she's gone. I'm not just going to sit here and mope around until she comes back. Is that what y'all were expecting? That he was just going to sit there and mope around until Ari came back? Okay. So, they go to the house. The siblings meet Avi. Okay, family is meeting the baby. It's all wonderful. And then they're having dinner. And the family, basically the mom and the sister, are suggesting to Ariella to move back to the United States. Her and Biniam and the baby to move back in the United States. And the mother once again talks about how she just can't, live with the idea of Ari and the baby living in Ethiopia. And Ari says that, well, because of COVID, the embassies were shut down. And so processing papers and the K-1 visa, all of that came to a screeching halt. So it's not even possible at the moment. And she says that she doesn't even think Biniam would even want to come live in the United States, because he had told her that he doesn't want to leave Ethiopia. So that's not even an option for him to come live in the United States. So what is she to do? And so her family says, her sister says that she wants the baby to grow up safely and with a good education. And that made me think, why wouldn't that be possible in Ethiopia? There's a whole world out there, okay? There's a whole world out there of different countries and different cultures and different ways of living. The American way is not the one and only way. And some may even argue it may not even be the best way. So why couldn't he be safe and healthy and get a good education in Ethiopia? Why not? Does the country have struggles? Probably. Economical hardships? Probably, like anywhere else. But just because it's different from what you're used to and how you grew up doesn't necessarily mean that it's less than. So when the sister said, well, we want him to be safe and have a good education here, I kind of was offended by that, because I was like, well, why wouldn't he be able to have that in Ethiopia? You have doctors and lawyers and engineers that came from Ethiopia, that had their education in Ethiopia. Why would it be? And maybe living that way is not the best way. Maybe, this life of Ivy League schools and then having these white collar corporate professions, that's not everybody's goal. And who's to say that's going to be Avi's goal? That's not everybody's goal to live like that. Maybe he would want to go, be a missionary or a conservationist, or something other than what you think he should be, something other than what, is similar to how you grew up. So I was a little bit offended by that when she said that. And yeah, but Ari said that Binyam is not going to want to leave Ethiopia. Maybe she can convince him. I don't know. And if he wants to, that would be great. But we need to get rid of this notion that the best way to live, or the only way to live, is the American way or the westernized way. Kenny and Armando. So they're having a conversation about adoption. Their whole segment was really centered about them expanding their family. I'm just going to kind of summarize it here really quick. Armando wants to have another child, and they have the option of adoption or to do in vitro. Armando really wants to go the in vitro route because he wants the child to be genetically linked to Kenny. He said he has Hannah, that's his own biological child, and he wants Kenny to have his own biological child within their relationship. Kenny is more leaning towards the adoption route because, he doesn't want to go through the whole raising a baby stage, the whole baby stage. That's a lot. He doesn't want to go through that anymore or again. And he really wants to help a child that's in need. So he would rather go the adoption route. So they call a few adoption agencies, and they call different adoption agencies. And from what they told us, a lot of the adoption agencies are religious based. And as soon as they told them that they were a same-sex couple, they basically had the phone hung up on them. Luckily, they found an agency that was privately owned, and the children were all HIV positive children in the orphanage. And so they both were, I guess, keen on helping out, a child that's in need like that. Now, the issues surrounding taking a child or adopting a child that is HIV positive is probably in Mexico. There might be a stigma associated with having an HIV positive child. So Armando was saying how we have to consider how, his family would relate to that, how they would deal with that, how other people would deal with that, how would that affect the child, if the people around them will shun the child because the child is HIV positive. And also Kenny had brought up the medical aspect of it. What does it take to raise an HIV positive child in Mexico if there's going to come a time when, the child is probably going to need medical care. What is the quality of that medical care, the quality of the medicine, and all the stuff they have to consider when you're taking a child that has a potentially terminal illness. Potentially, because you can live many, many, many decades with HIV, with the advancement of medicine, but is that accessible in Mexico? So they visit an orphanage, and this was a really sweet moment. I had to fight back tears. So they visit the orphanage with the HIV positive children, and when they got there, they talked to the director of the orphanage, and she was telling them that they are really not used to having same-sex couples interested in adopting the children, but she has heard of a same-sex couple, I guess, in another part of Mexico in the process of adopting. And at their particular orphanage, there's a lesbian couple that's in the process of adopting one of their children. And the whole process would take about 4 years to make the adoption final. So they have to consider that because of Kenny's age, to take another 4 years before they could even adopt the child, well, what does that mean? What does that look like for them, for their future, if it's going to take that long? So as they're talking about this, the lady tells them that, we're going to bring the children out for you to see the children, but don't talk about that they may be adopted. Don't even give them that hope that you're considering adopting them, because then they're going to latch on to that idea that they're about to get their forever home. So the children come out, they blur all of their faces, but it was still really adorable. So all the kids come out, and Kenny and Armando have brought toys for them. So they're passing out the toys to the children, and one of the little boys, he just immediately gave them a hug. He went to Armando, he went to Kenny, he gave them a really big hug, and that just shows how much these children are really, really craving, love and attention, and really, really craving a family, really wanting a family. So when I saw that and how they were playing with the kids and how happy the kids were to see them and how innocent the children were, it melted my heart. So then they have a very serious discussion, and they're at the park with Hannah, and they're having a very serious discussion about what they're going to do. Armando says he wants to really go through the in vitro route because of the genetic connection with Kenny. The child would be genetically linked to Kenny. And also, he just wants to do that. And the adoption process would take longer than the in vitro process. I guess he's assuming. And Kenny's kind of like, I would rather do the adoption route. I would really want to help a child who is HIV positive. And then Kenny recalls the AIDS crisis in America, how he had lost so many friends to AIDS, so on and so forth, and how it would mean a lot to him to be able to help a child who was HIV positive. It would mean a lot to him. And they're kind of like at an impasse with that. And so then Kenny's like, oh, and then also Armando says, I don't know how my family would take it, if I had an HIV positive child, and I don't know how society would take it. And then Kenny told him, it doesn't even matter. You shouldn't base your decision on what other people will think or what other people will do. You base your decision on what you want. If your family or anyone else has a problem with it, that's their issue. That's not your issue. So base your decision on what's in your heart and with what you want, not with what other people are going to say or think. And so then Kenny says to Armando, you know what, let's just talk about the wedding, because that's the immediate thing that needs our focus right now. So before we even go into this whole having a kid thing, let's just focus on the wedding. So that's them. Stephen and Alina. So Stephen, Alina, and Mom, they all go out to eat. Oh, it's a beautiful. Every time there's a scene with about an outside scene of Turkey, it is just so breathtaking. So they go to this restaurant. It's like an outside restaurant or an outside cafe, and the view is just, man, it will just take your breath away. So they're sitting there, and they order their beverages, and the mother orders coffee. And then there's this discussion about coffee and Mormonism. And Stephen said that, Mormons are not allowed to drink coffee, or because caffeine is, considered bad or whatever. It's not healthy for your body. So they talk about coffee, and the mom thinks that it's so weird that you can't even drink coffee. And then this discussion comes up about, Stephen's hypocrisy. So they're like, okay, so your religion is really big on coffee, but they're also big on chastity, and you had no problem breaking that commandment. And Stephen said, well, I learned a lot from that. Stephen says, well, when I broke that commandment and I, did what I did and I lost my virginity and I was out there, wilding out, I learned that from how committed to my faith I am by now choosing to abstain, because it's really difficult now that I have tasted the fruit of that. I am now more willing to work hard for my faith, because I know exactly what I'm giving up. So yeah, he turned it around really well. He spun that really, really well. But still they can see right through him, and they're not down with that at all. And he says in his confessional, it's like when you've had vegetables all your life, and then you have candy, and then you have to go back to vegetables. You realize how delicious candy was. So you realize exactly what you're giving up, and that just shows how committed you are to your faith. It's one thing if you never experienced it, but now that you have experienced it, it means even more. So yeah, he spun that really well. But the mom is like, okay, I see right through you. And then Elena tells him to leave so she can talk to her mom by herself. So she's talking to her mom, and her mom is like, no, Alina, no. This is not the man for you. This is not and also before, I got to mention this, Stephen had wanted the mother to convert to Mormonism. In fact, he wants her whole family to convert to Mormonism, because when they have children, he wants his children to be surrounded by the faith from both sides of the family. And so the mom was like, you take back again. They're just calling him out on his hypocrisy. Like, it's so important to you to be Mormon and to follow these commandments and all the rules and regulations of Mormonism, but then you don't even do it. You want us to do it. You want us to convert. You want us to not drink coffee. You want Alina to be completely chaste and pure. But here you are wilding out. You're not following your own religion, but you expect us to. So then, basically, the mom just wants her to end it with Stephen. I think the next day or later on that day, they go to see some rabbits or something. I don't know. And the rabbits were like fortune tellers. I was so confused. So the rabbits were like fortune tellers, and the rabbit handler, he puts something in front of the rabbits, and whatever piece of paper they bite off or that they pick off, there's a fortune in it. So they unravel the piece of paper and it says some type of fortune. And Alina took it as she probably needs to give Steven a second chance. And the mom is like, hell to the no. No, you're not doing that. Steven is not for you. This man is not your future. But Alina's, she's not so sure. So that scene with Steven and Alina and her mom was kind of funny because I loved how they were calling him out. They did not let that man breathe. They were calling him out completely. And, calling him out on his hypocrisy. And I loved it. And they did it so calmly and so rationally. I just loved it. I loved it. They were shooting those questions at him like there was no tomorrow. It was beautiful. And Steven, he was trying to stand his ground, but he really couldn't. He really couldn't. Not against those two. The mom is really smart. And she needs to listen to her mom. She needs to listen to her mom. And that's the end of my review. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anything with Steven and Alina. Oh, yeah. So Alina also said that when they were sitting there having drinks, when they were having drinks at the table, Alina was saying that, in the beginning of their relationship, when he told her he wanted her to convert to Mormonism, she was doing all the proper things and she was praying every day and she was reading the Mormon Bible. But he was out there fornicating. He was out there doing whatever, acting crazy out there while she was trying to be the perfect girlfriend, trying to convert for her future husband because she loves him so much. But he wasn't even doing what he wanted her to do. Alina, please. No. Please listen to your mom. So that is my review of 90 Day Fiancé. Oh, no, it's not. Corey and Evelyn. Lord have mercy. Corey and Evelyn. Okay, I'm going to make this real short. Corey and Evelyn. So she's allowed Corey to stay in the house with her, but he's in a different room. But she wants him to leave. He writes her notes every day, and he shoves them under her door, and they're basically, take me back, please take me back. So he's trying to get back with her. She's not having it. She told him that she wants him out of the house. And she told him, if I have to get the landlord and the police involved, I will. I'm not scared to do that. I need you to go. So he says he's going to go stay with his friend Raul. She says, good, then you and Raul can live happily ever after together. Now, what I didn't like about Evelyn is that when she referred to his girlfriend, I think her name was Jenny, his mistress, when she referred to her as that thing. Evelyn says, it's been several days now since Corey told me about the truth about his relationship with that thing. And I really didn't like it when Evelyn said that because Evelyn, the problem isn't Jenny. The problem is Corey. To hear Jenny tell it, she didn't even know that he was married to you. So why do you have all this anger towards her? I mean, she's called her a slut. She calls her that thing. It's not even about Jenny. This is about Corey. And yes, she's doing the right thing. Yes, you need to leave Corey, divorce Corey, do whatever you want to do. But this is a Corey problem, not a Jenny problem. Jenny is not the one that hurt you. It's Corey. So let's refrain from degrading another woman who was also played by your husband, who was played by the man you chose to marry. Let's not get it twisted, Evelyn. But she says that she's going to file for divorce. Corey says he's not going to sign any divorce papers. And if she does present him with divorce papers, he's just going to tear them up. He says he's going to do whatever he can to get his woman back. So let's see. Let's see if Evelyn is going to be strong enough and stick with her original plan, which was to not take him that seriously. So we'll wait and see. If you made it this long, I appreciate you more than you know. If you like what you saw, go ahead and give me a like. And if you really like what you saw, go ahead and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, and I'll talk to you again later.